Alright, gamers across all of YouTube from different sizes, shapes, genders, whatever it is. Let's come together real quick. Let's talk about what happened this week from Summer Game Fest to some really cool game announcements, really cool gameplay trailers. It's just been a pretty hyped week overall. But before we get into that, before we get into Summer Game Fest, let's take it back to Nintendo. Earlier this week, Nintendo dropped a trailer that some people weren't really happy with. They dropped a new trailer for Pikmin 4 showcasing a little bit of the customization, some of the story, some more of the gameplay. And a lot of people felt a little burned by it because we're hoping that the next Pikmin trailer would be at a Nintendo Direct. But as we start getting like game announcements and trailers like on like Nintendo's YouTube, Nintendo's Twitter, etc., people are starting to come to the realization that we're probably not going to be getting Nintendo Direct this June, which I mean kind of tracks. We didn't have one last year when there was no E3. There's not really any big games that Nintendo has to talk about right now. Pikmin was kind of the big game, and I mean they showed their hands pretty much, so I feel like they're letting everyone know that there isn't going to be a Direct this June. I feel like having no Nintendo Direct this summer is kind of expected. What was unexpected though was the fact that Nintendo went ahead and updated the Nintendo Switch Online. They added Kirby's Tilt and Tumble to the Game Boy Color application. They added Blaster Master Enemy Below also to the Game Boy. They added Harvest Moon to Super Nintendo and Mystery Towers to NES. I honestly have like no history with any of these games. And out of all of them, I feel like Kirby's Tilt and Tumble seems kind of fun. I might give that one a shot. And Blaster Master looks like a blast of a time. But overall, I mean, it's not a bad update, but it's definitely not their best update. I feel like some people who are huge Harvest Moon fans are probably going to be very excited. People who, I don't know if you're a fan of Mystery Tower. I've seen worse additions to NSO. But this definitely, in my opinion, doesn't really hype me up for me. But I'm sure some people are very hyped about it. Alright, let's start moving to PlayStation. And something that I think was kind of shocking news for a lot of people was that we actually got the release date for Spider-Man 2 at Summer Games Fest. Which is kind of jarring because a couple weeks ago at the PlayStation Showcase, they said coming out in fall. And then like 2 weeks later, they say, oh yeah, October 20th is the date. So it's kind of like, you knew then. Why'd you say now? I guess maybe just to have Spider-Man 2 in both places. Maybe they can be like, hey, the PlayStation Showcase is where the gameplay was at. And Games Fest is where the release date is at. So they kind of get like two hype cycles where people are shocked by the gameplay. Then people are shocked by the release date. So, I mean, I guess that's the strategy. However it happened, it was really cool to see them update the release date. October 20th is a great time to be releasing this game. It gives me very autumn vibes. The whole Venom thing maybe comes into like a little spooky kind of environment. Maybe not too spooky because it is Spider-Man. But overall, I think this is a great time to drop Spider-Man 2. Right before the holiday rush. Just in time to get like all that peak Black Friday traffic. Smart choice overall. Besides the release date, they also updated us on some story information. They did show us some pictures of what Venom is going to look like in the game, and he looks massive. He looks built. He looks like what you come to expect Eddie Brock to look like as Venom. Except they did tell us one thing, and it's the fact that Eddie Brock will not be Venom in this game. They're actually taking a completely different take on the whole symbiote Spider-Man story, and this gets me very excited. Earlier, I made a video expressing a little bit concern on like if they kind of tread too closely to the Venom story we all know, it might come off a little boring, a little safe. Very similar to what happened with the Spider-Man back in PS4, was that people just felt like the story was a little bit too safe. And as a huge fan of Venom, I kind of wanted to see them take some liberties, do a little bit of experimentation. So to hear the fact that they're not connecting Eddie Brock to the symbiote, at least in the origin story, is going to be definitely a huge game changer for what this story is going to be, and it gets me very excited. Another cool PlayStation announcement at the Summer Game Fest was Honkai Starrail is coming officially to the PlayStation 5 sometime in Q4 of 2023. If you're not familiar with Honkai Starrail, this is a game developed by the same people who made Genshin Impact. Up until now, it's only been on PC, and if you're a PC fan, you already know this game because you are probably been playing this game. This is very PC oriented. I know the gamers on Steam love this style of game. It's going to be very interesting to see it come to PlayStation 5 and see what kind of response the console gamer has to it. I think Genshin Impact was very well received. People loved Genshin, and I think Honkai Starrail looks interesting enough. I don't know if I'm interested enough to give it a shot, but we'll see what happens when it gets here. We had tons of really cool game announcements and some release date information on some games. So we already said Spider-Man 2 got a release date for October 20th. Fantastic date. Lies of P also got a release date for September 19th. Lies of P, if you guys are unfamiliar, it's this kind of Bloodborne style Souls game being developed by AA developer NeoWiz. It also released with a demo that was shadow dropped yesterday. Fantastic. I've been playing the demo. It's a great game. I love it. Its release date is September 19th. And then we got a announcement and release date trailer for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. This is coming out January 18th to all platforms. This looks amazing. This is like a 2D style Metroidvania Prince of Persia game. And again, I'm just super excited for, specifically these three titles. But this one looks really interesting, especially with the fact that we had heard that the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake has been going through some problems. It kind of had to restart development. So I'm very excited to see that they're still finding ways to drum up hype for Prince of Persia. Hopefully, if this game is received really well, it gives them the momentum going into Sands of Time remake, hopefully dropping sometime in 2025 or 2026. But again, definitely excited for these release dates. One of the great themes of this Summer Game Fest, I think, was gameplay. A lot of trailers showed a lot of awesome gameplay. Some of the gameplay that stood out the most to me was obviously Mortal Kombat 1. It kind of was like the main event, the highlight draw, the thing that Jeff Keighley was telling people is going to be at the event prior, and it did not disappoint. The gameplay looked amazing for Mortal Kombat 1. They showed gameplay for Like a Dragon Gaiden, which again, fantastic. It looks awesome. Little more to say about that one except for the fact that it just looks really cool. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth had kind of a story mixed with gameplay trailer, which is again super freaking hyped. The game looks awesome. The game looks opened up, looks wild, and I'm just super excited for that. And then they kind of had this little deep dive story gameplay segment into Alan Wake 2, which is like a survival horror game coming from Remedy. This is a sequel to Alan Wake that released back in the day on like the Xbox 360 and stuff. And they did say this is going to be a standalone game where you're not going to need to have played the first game. That's really cool because I never actually played the first Alan Wake, and this looks, I'm going to be honest, it looks pretty creepy. It looks pretty scary from the dark, ominous setting to the fact that like monster was kind of tanking hits. It looks really cool. I don't know if I'm going to be picking it up just because there's a lot of things releasing around that time that I'm going to be playing. So if there's time, I'm definitely going to check it out. But if there's no time, it might just have to get on the backlog list, and we'll see what happens whenever I do get a chance to it. Aside from like really cool gameplay trailers, they also had really cool announcements of like smaller budget style games that I thought looked really cool. So something like Toxic Commando, which is like a horde shooter where the story is being developed by John Carpenter. John Carpenter is obviously the mind behind like the Halloween franchise. He's like a master of horror, and the game looked pretty funny. It looked pretty cool. I like horde shooters. I'm a fan of that. We also got Sonic Superstars. Again, another 2D Sonic into a storied franchise that looks just amazing. The gameplay looks very Sega Genesis new era. Like if they did like a new style of Sonic from the Sega Genesis era. It looks great. Looks fantastic. I'm a fan of anything Sonic for the most part. And then this game, Sandland, which is a game based off the manga that was created by Akira Toriyama. For those of you guys who don't know Akira Toriyama, he's the mind behind Dragon Ball Z. He's the artist behind things like Dragon Quest, and his art style shows through and through with this game. It looks really interesting and cool. I did see not too much people are hyped about it, but I'm personally hyped about it. It looks fun for me. I like the kind of vehicle combat. I like the desert world aesthetic. It looks like a game that I'm interested in. Stepping away from Summer Game Fest for a little bit, I kind of want to give a shout out to Diablo IV. It set a record for Blizzard being their fastest selling game ever, which is just huge accomplishment for a development team that made things like World of Warcraft, who's made the things like Diablo 2, Diablo 3 that are renowned by fans. So it is really cool to see them kind of hit new heights, even though they've been making games for God knows how long. And everyone who's playing Diablo 4 seems to be very excited, very happy for the game. So I'm just, again, overall, great to hear that games are doing good. In that same conversation of video games breaking records, Street Fighter 6 has officially reached 1 million units of sold in just mere days of release. So round of applause to Team Capcom, round of applause to the developers behind Street Fighter 6. They also broke their record on Steam for the most played fighting game on Steam, and they broke that record twice. They set the record, and then they shortly afterwards broke it again. Huge round of applause for Street Fighter 6. Huge round of applause for fighting games in general. And again, games doing good in 2023 is what we want to see. So I'm very excited for that. Jeff Keighley ended Summer Games Fest with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth story/gameplay trailer. So I'm gonna end this news roundup with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth gameplay/story trailer. It looks freaking amazing, man. Holy hell, the characters look so actualized, so visual. It's weird that, I mean, we've seen these characters. We've seen Midgar back in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it was jarring and shocking then to see them kind of like fully animated and voice acted and just being like more alive than ever. Not since Advent Children have we seen him this alive. And then just to see Rebirth, and you kind of feel like you're gonna have that, oh, we already saw this in Final Fantasy VII Remake, so we're not gonna be as shocked. But then Cloud opens the door, and you see the vast world, and then you're just running around in chocobos, and your character's doing combos in battle, and everything looks like, again, that perfect blend of turn-based and action RPG. Everything looks fantastic, and I think like right now the people at Square Enix who are making Final Fantasy, they just get it. They understand this IP, this property, this franchise. They understand what it means to the fans, and they're dead set on delivering what this franchise deserves. Speaking of which, if you're a physical collector of like video games and stuff like that, you're gonna be very excited to hear that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is gonna be on 2 discs. A huge homage to back in the day, back on PlayStation 1. I believe Final Fantasy VII was on 3 discs back then. So again, it's just really excited to see that they could have opted out to do the cheaper thing and make 1 disc with majority of the game and then you download the rest. But they chose to do the 2 disc route to make sure everything is complete on disc. And then for everyone who remembers the PlayStation 1, this just feels like a huge callback to the original Final Fantasy VII back on 3 discs. I'm very excited for this. I'm picking this up day one. It is, again, they doubled down on the fact that it's coming in winter. They did mention it's coming early 2024, so it's going to hit that, 2023 winter timeline. So I'm excited to see it's on track. Anyways, you guys, that is going to do it for this news roundup. Do me a favor and like the video if you guys enjoyed the video. Please consider subscribing if you like this type of content. We do this kind of video every single Friday. So you guys want to stay up to date on all things video games related. Subscribe down below. Let me know as well if there's anything in these kind of that happened this week that got you very excited. With that, I'll see you guys on the next video.